for this country. This is a process that the United Nations and Uganda has walked with the government and people of Uganda since 2017. As we celebrate Heroes Day, His Excellency the President today will be launching the National Civic campaign titled Uganda, This is Home. This is a brainchild of the National Initiative for Civic Education in Uganda, NICE Uganda, supported by the United Nations family. Ladies and gentlemen, NICE Uganda was launched on March 12, 2019 on the margins of the Africa Now Summit. But before that launch, I'm delighted to share with you, we did consultations in country, including a benchmarking visit to Ghana. I invite you to go to our website to read a report of all the lessons from Ghana, which led to NICE Uganda here. While we are promoting today this campaign, I also wanted to use the opportunity to say two things on the consultative process. For 6 months, we consulted high and wide across Uganda. We consulted religious leaders, members of cultural institutions, youth associations. We consulted people in the marketplace. We consulted professionals, members of government, and parliament. But we never stopped consulting. We used the past 2 years to better understand what were the issues of interest in Uganda, what were the topics of concern, and who our stakeholders would be. To be able to make sure that we reach here today, the United Nations provided a temporary home to NICE Uganda, and we supported the volunteers who worked on it until this date. So ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for us to hand over to Uganda a platform which is homegrown and home-led and home-operated. What we are launching today is a Ugandan space for Ugandans to define their identity, for Ugandans to define the content of civic education and good citizenship. So to all Ugandans, I invite you, religious leaders, cultural leaders, celebrities, to join and help sustain these local spaces. In particular, I want to thank Bishop Orombi for his guidance during my recent consultations in Gulo. So as I conclude, I implore each and every one of us to love this beautiful home called Uganda, to continue to work towards making it better. I also take this opportunity to affirm the United Nations commitment towards the people of Uganda by working with you towards the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals and the NDP 3. The only way to achieve this is together. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, UN Resident Coordinator, Madam Rosa Malango. We really thank you so much because you've set the ball rolling for us, and it is very important. Now, to all our viewers and those following this, the campaign here is launching This Is Home. And I think it just sounds very good for Russell to know that it is actually home, and the Pan-African spirit in need of the Ubuntu, to me, is actually the catchphrase of this particular dialogue that we are getting into this morning. I'll take the opportunity now to welcome and to ask the chairman of NICE, Mr. Joseph Piribonwa, the chairman of the National Initiative for Civic Education in Uganda. I also knew him when he was still the vice chairman of the Electoral Commission. I love his experience, and of course he's here. We ask you, Mr. Piribonwa, to come in and give your remarks, having heard from the UN Resident Coordinator. You're welcome, Ndugu.
Thank you, moderator. Our host, Your Excellency Rose Malango, the Resident Coordinator of the UN in Uganda. Our guest speaker, who is online, Mrs. Josephine Nkrumah, the Chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education in Ghana. The country representative of the UN Women, Dr. Maxine Hoinato. Panelists, the press, ladies and gentlemen, those present here and those online, we take this opportunity to welcome you, both those who are physically present and those following us via technology. First, we wish to congratulate Ugandans for getting to this day when we remember the heroes of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Initiative for Civic Education in Uganda, abbreviated as NICE Uganda, is the first structured collaboration between the government of Uganda and non-government actors. NICE's purpose is to provide a space to coordinate and promote value-based civic education, to support dialogue around the national character and promote positive mindset change for Ugandans at home and abroad. It's also to facilitate the establishment of a robust legal framework that enables civic education at all levels. It's to monitor and ensure quality control for civic education activities in the country. It supports civic education campaign for the benefit of public good. In arriving at these purposes, we have consulted a cross-section of stakeholders, as the High Excellency has explained, and we invite all the other stakeholders to join us in this mission. Today we are happy to convene the first of a series of civic education e-dialogue that are intended to create space for dialogue on issues that affect our country. More significantly, this dialogue coincides with the launch of a novel mindset change campaign called Uganda, This is Our Home, in bracket, Ndimuna Uganda. This campaign will leverage the resources and capacities available around to us to promote value-based participation in our political and socio-economic development. This is the first of its kind. As NICE Uganda, we hope that the campaign will rally Ugandans to think and act as one, regardless of their tribe, religion, social status, or even color. The robust civic education we will be able to collectively and harmoniously figure out solutions to any challenges at hand and that may arise in the future. Civic education is broader than political information dissemination. It's about educating people about how to live responsibly and dutifully in the socio-economic and political lives. For instance, we are launching a protracted civic education campaign amidst COVID-19 epidemic. NICE Uganda, for that purpose, stands by to support the government in the communication around COVID-19 SOPs. We wish to extend our gratitude to the government of Uganda for putting civic education back on the national agenda and the national priorities. In the same respect, we thank the UN for the catalyst support offered to NICE Uganda for the past 2 years. We look forward to similar support from all other stakeholders, both in public and private sectors. To our panelists today, we thank you for honoring our invitation, and we will continue to count on you as we roll out the civic education program. We look forward to the deliberations and proposals on how we can leverage civic education for a new spirit of Uganda's citizenship. We thank you for God and our country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Ndugu Bilibonwa, just right there. We really thank you. This campaign, of course, aims to rally citizens to celebrate our diversities. Now, Uganda, just like many African countries, we are very rich in these diversities, and getting to civic education and, of course, embracing these diversities for who we are, I think is the way to go. It comes at a time when we are in a decade of implementing the SDGs, and of course also at the time when we get to the implementation of our third national development plan, which also focuses so much on mindset change, and I think it is really very important. I'll take the opportunity now to request Ndugu Jonah Jackson, commonly known as JJ Balikwira, the Assistant Commissioner from the Ministry of from the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, and he's the Assistant Commissioner for National Guidance. He's representing the PS Mr. Bajire, who is not here. I am very happy to see you, Ndugu JJ Balikwira. Karibu, and let's get your remarks.
Asante sana, the moderator. Thank you very much to support meeting here. The UN Resident Coordinator and also in charge of security. I hope I'm not mistaken there. And also who is facilitating this initiative, the chairman, Mr. Bilibonwa, who is also championing this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you greetings from the Minister of ICT and National Guidance. This initiative comes in timely when we are committed to building a knowledgeable society driven by information, technology, and national ideology. When you talk about national ideology, it is where all of us must focus. And that's one of the commitments of the Minister of ICT and National Guidance. And indeed, when NICE comes to put a building block in that direction, it is an energy well directed and which is most welcome for the transformation of our country. As all comrades, you may understand that Uganda decided and determined its destiny in the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda in the year of 1995, where it recorded on its history, and today it's good that today we are recalling all those people who participated in that, and put commitment to changing that bad history of this country and define the core values that should guide the process of changing the history. And in the same vein, the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda put forward the directive principles of state policy, where every actor, both state and non-state actors, were supposed to follow in implementing any activity geared towards giving a good direction to our country. And in that vein, automatically, both state and non-state actors have had to create a relationship. So when we are here as government and the non-state actors, I think it's in the fulfillment of our Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. I also want to underscore that in the same Constitution, we defined the direction of governance. When you look at Article 8A, we talked about that Uganda shall be governed based on national interest and the common good. Therefore, when we are to unpack the national interest and the common good, that's where now we come up and also define our national ideology. And good enough, apart from after the Constitution, the leadership of this country moved ahead to provide a national harmonized vision, which was passed by in the year 2010, which now projected the Uganda we want. To mention but a few, it is talking about transforming our society from a backward society to a modern and prosperous country. And we gave ourselves a time frame of 30 years. That's now the Vision 2040. And do that one, we must make sure that now there are avenues in the space that we are talking about which are going to break down all those elements that are going to support the process of achieving our national vision. And indeed, NICE, when it comes up with this civic education initiative, which is homegrown and home-based, it is the way to go. And from there, as you are aware, as the moderator you mentioned, that now we are now addressing the National Development Plan 3. That comes from National Development Plan number 1, which was passed in 2010, then number 2, which you have just concluded, and now number 3, as a vehicle to fulfilling our aspirations and desires. And when we talk about shaping the narrative of the young generation, the initiative, I think now we must recognize we are all committed towards that. And indeed, it's only civic education that is going to unpack all those concepts which you talked about, let's say Pan-Africanism, of Ubuntu, the concept of patriotism to guide the transformation process, the process of democracy, the process of socio-economic transformation. For every citizen of Uganda to understand that and walk the talk, must be able to get the knowledge, so that now we develop a knowledgeable society which will drive towards that, regardless of the diversities. And it is true, society lives in diversities, but what coalesces societies together is a common vision, a common value system, a common understanding, and a common commitment. And indeed, Uganda, we are committed to transforming our society. So as His Excellency has always guided, he said, for us now, it's our duty to make sure that we mobilize all the citizens in this country to understand these concepts. When we talk about Pan-Africanism, what is it that we should be able to drive at, regardless of your ideological diversity, so that you do things in relation to what we believe as a country. When you are talking about patriotism, patriotism is a very wonderful concept which has directed many societies to develop. So you as a Ugandan, regardless of your diversity, what are you doing in your political, economic and class diversities? as the Open Director mentioned it, that now we have just gone through a political process. Yes, where there's a political process, people are trying to struggle for the political space, there must be contradictions that arise. But how do we manage those contradictions without antagonizing the national interest? So that's our duty. And as we do that, one must be cognizant that we are talking about 75% youth. So how do we package them and direct the narrative of causing them to appreciate their country and walking the talk of commitment to transform it so that they can use their intellectual energy and physical energy without negating those who are there in the space, and because that holistic approach on developing our society. So as we are here, what we are doing now, bringing now the mobilization, civic education in homes is the best way to go. And this one is not in any contradiction with the with the National Plan 3, which is talking about mindset and focusing on the parish-led development initiative, the parish model, because that's where we all belong. So for us to fit there, indeed, civic education is very critical. And when we link up with other partners, that's the direction to go. And we welcome that. And as a ministry, we are committed to working together with anybody, with all society organizations, with anybody, both within and without, who puts extra energy and resources towards achieving our desirable goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ndogo JJ Bakalikwira. Now it's very, very important and it's getting sweeter, I can say. I attended a conference in Munyonyo in 2019 when they launched the NICE initiative, and to me, yes, I knew and I said, yes, this is where to go. But just like many initiatives start, we didn't hear anything since then until now. Thank God that we are here today. Now, when we talk about civic education, you'll notice that we've just gone through an electoral process, and much of what we were talking about was about civic education, blaming the citizenry for not doing certain things rightly because there is no, or because there was no civic education. And I think this comes at a very timely moment. Now you'll notice that one of the problems that we have on the continent of Africa, especially with the youth, is an identity crisis. And because we have an identity crisis, we pick on each and everything. The spirit of Pan-Africanism from the founding fathers, the late Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the late Pixley Shaka Seme, the founding father of the ANC, and several others, of course, saw a different Africa that I think we need to cultivate, especially when you talk about mindset change and many years, the other name of Mr. Crispin Kaheru was actually Sedu. Now I think Crispin Kaheru will move from being known as Sedu now to NICE, Uganda. Karibu Ndogo Crispin.
Thank you very much, moderator. Our host, Her Excellency Rosa Malango, the resident coordinator of the UN in Uganda, the chairperson of the National Initiative for Civic Education, Mr. Joseph Biribonwa, our guest speaker this morning, Ms. Josephine Nkrumah, the chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education in Ghana, who has been online for the last 2 hours despite the ungodly hour in Accra right now. The Commissioner, JJ Bakalikwira, representing the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, the country representative of the UN Women in Uganda, Dr. Maxim, panelists present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, both here physically and those online. We have a big audience online. First of all, I need to congratulate Ugandans on this Heroes Day. But second and equally important, I'm very excited about today's dialogue. It is the first of its kind. It's a historical one. I think let me point out right from the onset that we are dealing with a subject of critical importance given the context that we are in. Civic education, as it is now, is a national emergency. We needed it yesterday, but more importantly, we need it today more than ever before. we are at a place where, as a country, we are challenged by the low response rate towards the COVID-19 standard operating procedures, testing, and vaccination. At one level, people are not cautious about how deadly the pandemic we are dealing with is. At the other level, we are faced with the occasional trust issues between the people and our government. Civic education, in my view, is and will be critical in mobilizing Ugandans towards an urgent sense of national consciousness that promotes informed and active participation in both public and private life. Ladies and gentlemen, Uganda right now is hungry for active, informed, and responsible citizens. Citizens who are willing and able to take responsibility for themselves. Citizens who are willing and able to take responsibility for their communities. Citizens who are able to see and quickly seize the opportunities around them. Citizens who are driven by a sense of passion rather than quick money. Civic education and the Uganda This Is Home, Ndimuna Uganda campaign that we will be launching today will inspire Ugandans to be and do just exactly that. Briefly, the campaign that we're going to launch later today will promote a sense of duty to country. It will raise awareness about public and private development programs and opportunities, inspire Ugandans to be confident and proud about their identity, and ultimately positively affect changes of beliefs, attitudes, values, and behavior of citizens. This way, ladies and gentlemen, we will be able to effectively deal with the vices such as the creeping ethnocentrism, sectarianism, intolerance, anger, hate-based violence, and corruption. Our civic education messages will attack these vices one by one and will inspire a greater sense of accountability. For instance, some of the messages will teach people that when you steal, you've stolen from your own home. And ultimately, the corrosive effect will be borne by your family and relatives. Other messages will tell the truth about our history, our values, our culture, society, and the environment that we live in. It is our intention to inspire social cohesion, that at the end of the day, we are one. The campaign will also stimulate young people to appreciate the benefits of hard work, sacrifice, discipline, and self-confidence. This way, we will be able to build a generation of passionate and patriotic go-getters who are able to identify and fit in the opportunities around them. Ultimately, the leaders and the led, the young and the old, should be able to honestly ask themselves, what can they do for their country? And not, what can the country do for them? The country has already given us what we need. The people must do their part. Ladies and gentlemen, our civic education campaign is broader than participation in politics. It touches on how we can be active players in our socio-economic well-being too. To deliver on this campaign, we'll combine both a multimedia messaging approach alongside a vigorous community-based intervention approach to drive the message home that this is home. This is about changing behavior and mindsets. We will rely on you, Ugandans, on us, Ugandans, on we, Ugandans, to be the champions, influencers, and ambassadors for the interventions that we envisage, both at home and abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, I will at this moment invite our partner, Alcan Art, to briefly take the country through the key concepts that will inform our information, education, and communication mindset change campaign from now onward. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ndugu Crispin. Let's welcome Alcan Art Media.
Good morning. I'll get right into it. I'm called William Bakawindi from Alcan Art. I'm very happy to get this chance to take the nation through the thinking behind the campaign, This is Home. Speaker after speaker have today told you about how the country is coming off a very intense election period and what came with it. In coming up with the messaging for this campaign, we have had that very much in mind, and we had in mind that Uganda is a very strong, politically, it has people that have very strong political opinions, which in most cases, like after the elections, led to a very polarized situation. We intended to tackle that and to remind people that outside and after the politics, there is still life to lead, and there is still a country to get to, there is still a home to go to. And the fact that we are different, we have differences, does not mean that we are not a country anymore. Now, when we are coming up with communication for is a country that is made up of very different people, is a country that is made up of different tribes. People belong to different religions. We are not homogeneous. So we take them from that, from the known, and take them slowly and steadily to where we want them to think. That's why it's first and foremost a mindset campaign. We need to change the mindset of people from focusing on the differences to focusing on what is common to us all. The campaign, being a mindset campaign, is supposed to remind Ugandans of what is good and what makes us all the same. That is why the emphasis is on reminding everybody that this is your home. Uganda is your home. And your home is not just the house that you stay in, not the house that you sleep in. Your home is your neighbor. Your home is your community. Your home is the grocery where you go to buy your groceries. Your home is actually the kafunda you go to relax after an intense day of work. Your home is the people you work with. And your home is much, much bigger than your immediate family members. Now, what we want to achieve with this is if people begin, they have always known this, but because of the polarities, they start looking at people as their fellow people as opponents, as people from another political club, as people from another tribe, as people from another religious sect. So once we hammer this information, this communication into people's brains every other time, it has to be a very consistent message over a period of time that this is your home and your home is made up of much, much more than the house you sleep in. Once people begin looking at each other as members of the same community, as members of the same home, then they will start changing their minds about how they treat these people. Because you're hardly going to go home and start quarreling with your housemate or your home members about how different you are. We are reminded about. I'll give you a quote from Ido Koyenikan that the pride of your country should not come after your country becomes great. Your country becomes great because of your pride in it. This is the feeling we are trying to evoke, that your country becomes great because of your pride in it. It is okay for us to be angry. It is okay for us to be disappointed after an election or after any political vying. But this does not mean that you throw the baby out with the baby water because you're angry. It is important to remind everybody in Uganda that this is still our home. And this being our home, we want everybody to affirm that Ndimuna Uganda, I am Ugandan, and in everybody's language, to affirm that. Now, once we affirm that and we remember that this is home, slowly by slowly, we change the mindset, and it's when that mindset has changed that now we will get into changing, giving them messages that will change their behavior, messages that will promote Ubuntu, messages that will now require them and remind them of what it is to be Ugandan. If you remind somebody that you're Ugandan, they have to first affirm that, yes, I am Ugandan. So that is the basis, and that is the thinking behind the messaging of this is home, Ndimuna Uganda.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Ndugu from Alcan Art Media. Thank you so much for that presentation. Like I said, it's just getting sweeter. Somebody summarized East Africa this way and said, Ugandans are those that love themselves but did not love the country. Kenyans are those loved the country but they did not love themselves. And Tanzanians love themselves and love the country. And I think the narrative can actually change. We can't be a people that love ourselves and we don't love our country. So it is prudent and important that if we love ourselves, then we need also to love our country. And I think just like Ndugu Akaheru here said, this is an issue of national importance that we need. About 10 or so years ago, there was a campaign that was launched in the city here, and it was called Kampala City Yange. Now that was intended to cultivate the spirit of loving the city, to keep it clean, to keep it tidy, by people owning it, but that campaign could have died somewhere. I just want to implore you, Ndugu Vilibonwa, that this campaign of this is my home, or this is home, Uganda Yange, it's Yange, it shouldn't die on the way somewhere. Like we now talk about Kampala City Yange, which we do not know where it actually is. We think this should carry on and continue. Well, I want to thank you so much. We'll get to our next phase of the discussion here, and now we'll get into our panel discussions. I just want to think that all my panelists are actually here with me, and I'll take the opportunity now to welcome Dr. Maxime Hoinato, Dr. Maxime Hoinato, who is a UN resident representative in Uganda since 2018 and was previously representing, or the UN representative, the women representative in Mali. He's here with us and is going to talk about the role of civic education in influencing behavior and reinvigorating our social values. You're very welcome, Dr. Maxime.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank Her Excellency Rosa Malango, the UN boss in Uganda, and our hosts, our colleagues from the UN that are here with us and also online, representatives of government. When we say government, I mean all branches of government, civil society, the media, and private sector. I have a couple of things on civic education that I'm not going to come back to, given what I've already heard in terms of the definition of civic education that we need to knowledge, skills at school level for people to grow up with the attitudes that is desired. Home, community, etc., etc. In the particular situation of Uganda, which is, to be honest, not different from a lot of countries in Africa, where you have like a huge youth in the community, a huge volume of young people in the community, that more and more
distance themselves from government. In many countries, you have mistrust between these young people and government. And the understanding of these young people of political and civic management will determine how they behave when there is mistrust. Because the people in government, and again, when we talk about government, people think about the executive branch of government. When even we all talk about executive branch of government, people think about people in cabinet. Meanwhile, the administration is more than 80% of government, which is made up of all of us. Whether we are, PS somewhere, we are whatever in government. And then you leave the executive branch to the judiciary. From the judiciary, we get to the legislative branch. And from the legislative branch, you get to even media. People see media as talking governance and government in general. So when we are talking about trust, it's all powers in the country that young people need to feel close to, including traditional power, religious power. All of that contributes to people's trust in government and governance in the country. So we have to move from the concept of government to the concept of governance. And when you talk about governance, you get into even economic governance. And people who are managing big corporations, taking economic decisions that affect the life of these young people, contribute to building the trust that we are talking about. One example that I like to take is the football team. And I like what the media people said earlier. Do you support your football team because it's winning? Or does your football team wins because you support it? So that type of attitude and thinking around the relationship between the citizen and government and governance in the country has to be at the foundation of any civic education program. I would like to, of course, you can't invite UN Women without civic education, a barometer, governance barometer that studies the differences between different considerations when we talk to civic education. And surprisingly, that study has not found any difference between men and women in terms of needs, values, and citizenry. Rather, differences were found in terms of geographical location, even age, because the need will be different in terms of age. In terms of gender, it appeared that what women need or what women feel in terms of value in the community is exactly the same or very close to what men. But the difference is how you reach both of them. That is fundamentally different. The level of education of one, the level of information of one, the freedom of one compared to the other makes a huge difference when it comes to the success of civic education in the country. The means through which a woman can be reached, brought into a conversation is different. The examples, the methodologies used will be different. That's why we will urge the leaders of NICE and this huge NICE campaign to consider how best, what are the characteristics of women in Uganda? What are the messages that women are sensitive to in the country that we need to take into account? Women forms the majority of this country, and any message that miss them will miss
its point. So civic education should be contextualized to address the social, economic, and political conditions of Uganda for it to be relevant. It should be embedded in the Ugandan values. Rosa will talk to you about the meeting that she has with different communities in Uganda, the traditional leaders, where behavior, good thinking, and godly attitude in this country, from one corner to the other. Of course, you would say that it's all linked up to the SDGs, as if our kings were in New York when we were developing the SDGs. But the fact is there that we are aligned, and this needs to be taken into account. Civic education programs should be inclusive, taking into account age, gender, social dynamics in the country. It should be continuous, because what we have observed so far is like discontinued attempts to bring in the citizen. And most of the time, it's so close to the elections that people get confused in terms of the aim of the campaign. If you do like a civic education program far from electoral processes, people now will understand that this is about the country, this is not about electing somebody or some people in power. That's why we recommend that for civic education to be value-based and value-centered, it has to be disconnected from political processes. There is a need for a clear collaboration mechanisms between the different stakeholders, including government, civil society, religious leaders, cultural institutions, etc. It is important that any civic education program is, as I said, depoliticized. Even if it's far from elections, it can also be politicized, like a color of a party or something like that, that will disconnect some other people. And as I said about women, it is important to use the most effective medium of communication, accessible to all, regardless of class, education, etc. Let me conclude for the moment by saying that civic education is crucial in building any democratic society, and it is important that efforts is made to revive it and to support it in this country. Multi-stakeholder engagement are key to reviving any civic education program for it to be influential in the country. The diversity of Uganda should be its strength and not its disadvantage. Let me thank NICE for the initiative, the UN Resident Coordinator for hosting us, government, and again all branches of government that are central and important for this program, civil society organizations, without which we are not going to succeed, and more importantly, I saved the best for the last, which is the media. We have seen in the gender conversation in Uganda that the way the media treats a subject, deals with a subject, impacts on how citizens embrace that subject. We have seen it with how gender discrimination, rape, sexual assault are treated in the media, determines how the population position itself vis-a-vis these crimes. So we would like to invite the program to focus on media not just as means of transferring communication, but rather as on media as knowledge house. The media are not just a channel. They are also, and they can also be a source that generates that knowledge, because there is no media that should be neutral. We are not talking about neutrality when it comes to Uganda. We are talking about engagement and positioning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much, Dr. here from UN Women. It is getting engaging, and just like we told you earlier on, we recognized the chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education in Ghana, Mrs. Josephine Nkrumah, who is chief guest. She'll be speaking to us much later. Remember, she's been online much earlier than all of us because of the time difference in Ghana where she is. But I'm also very happy to note that some are already following us here. Major General Masiko, the National Political Commissar, is following the conversation online. We thank you so much. The PS for Gender, Mr. Agre, PS for Gender, Mr. Agre Chivenge is also watching us and following. We have representatives from the local government, specifically Mr. Emma Mhanguzi here, members of the government communicators forum, the Electoral Commission, the Executive Director of UCC, Madam Irene Sawankambo. The UN family is also following us online. We want to recognize all of you, members of the civil society. We want to also welcome to this conversation from wherever you are, Honorable Dr. Miriam Matembe, the chairperson of Civic Education, this Coalition for Civic Education in Uganda, Civic Electoral Democracy in Uganda, CEDU. We thank you so much, and of course, members of the Youth Coalition for SDGs in Uganda, those and several other people following this conversation, and they are with us. We thank you so much. We'll take some of your comments because they're coming in through. The Honorable Lutamaguzi Semakula, the Member of Parliament for Nakaseke South Constituency in the 11th Parliament, is also watching and has sent a comment here which our panelists will respond to after these discussions. Allow me now to invite Dr. Frank Mohereza to talk about the role of civic education in building national consciousness. Dr. Frank is the Executive Director of Center for Basic Research, and he's one man that has been there with his very vast experience. We request you now to speak to us, Dr. Frank Karibu, and the stage is yours now.
Thank you very much, moderator. Your Excellency, the head of UN in Uganda, the head of the National Initiative of Civic Education in Uganda, NICE Uganda, the representatives of government, UN agencies, civil society, all protocols observed. Mohereza Emmanuel Frank is my name. I am the Executive Director, Center for Basic Research. I come to you here following our involvement with the issues of civic education from 3 years ago. And we have been grappling with these issues as a research organization. Center for Basic Research is an academic NGO, one of the few that instead of focusing on service delivery, we also engage in knowledge generation and dissemination as well as engagement. And one of the areas where we thought we could engage is the question of civic education. Not necessarily in terms of activism, but generating information that could be useful for those who wish to engage. We have been working with civil society, but also with government agencies, as well as the general public. At Center for Basic Research, we've created a platform. We've created a platform for engagement with ideas. Our philosophy at Center for Basic Research is that we agree to disagree agreeably. We invite people with different ideas to come and put the ideas on the table, and we engage with the ideas and let the idea which is superior carry the day. We have invited people who don't agree with us. We have put on the same table people who come from government as well as the political opposition, and asked them not to abuse each other, not to throw words, but to engage with each other in terms of words. And the experience we've generated, Your Excellency, is that we love each other as Ugandans. But what we do not normally understand is what happens when we become different people and start calling each other names and throwing stones at each other. But that's for another day. I was asked here to try and speak about the role of civic education in building a national consensus. I could spend the whole day in trying to justify why civic education is important for a national consensus. But let me begin by mentioning that we've just come through a very difficult election at the national level, at the district level, sub-county and parliamentary level. People hate each other to the extent that they would celebrate if the other has a problem. And you've seen what has been going on in the social media because of the election. So we're really like a country that looks extremely polarized because of the politics. That suggests that there are a number of things which needs to be done, which are not being done, which require us to do in order for us to be able to move this to the next level. We know that part of building a national consensus has involved a national dialogue. There are many ways in which a national consensus can be built, but many have been boycotted because they do not like the one who is organizing it. And therefore, because of the one who is organizing it, who is behind it, many keep away, even when they would have benefited from it or the country would have benefited from it. They have not been well understood. You see, because the national dialogues we have been toying with have been commissioned, organized, arranged immediately before an election. We wait for 5 years and then an election is underway, then we start to think about having a national dialogue. And that is problematic. We think that the timing, the motives, the key players, if they're not clear, if they're not clarified, it becomes a problem to even understand why we need a national dialogue if it is the basis around which we build the national consensus. Most attempts at creating national consensus, by the way, it's not the consensus at the national level that is the most important. We need consensus and the impact that climate change is having on different geographical areas. The way in which we are affected by economic policies are completely different. We need to understand each other in terms of how best we can live as Ugandans, wherever we are. So to have an initiative around building a national consensus that is politicized and instrumentalized is a recipe for its failure. I like this theme of, this is my home. Uganda is my home. Ndimna Uganda. There was some picture on the media which was circulating of an old Mzungu man with a t-shirt and saying, if you're stressed anywhere in the world, you come to Uganda. Yes. I think some of you might have seen it. I tried to look for it, I couldn't find it. For me, that is epic. On this day, when we are celebrating Heroes Day, there are heroes who are least spoken about. A person lives wherever he is, in America, in Europe, and calls Uganda home. If you feel stressed anywhere in the world, go to Uganda. That person, by the virtue of putting on a t-shirt with that kind of message, it means he understands and values calling Uganda home. But who calls Uganda home? And why? If my father is a Ugandan by birth, therefore, I am entitled to be a Ugandan by also birth, if I am born here. You can become a Ugandan by registration. You can call Uganda home because this is where you reside, this is where you work. So the question is, do you have to be a legal Ugandan in order for you to love Uganda? Not necessarily. Does it necessarily mean if you are a Ugandan by birth, if you are a Ugandan by descent, your great-great-great-grandfather was a Ugandan, and therefore you are a Ugandan naturally,
therefore you love Uganda because you are a Ugandan by birth. Not necessarily. Many times we assume because I am a Ugandan by birth, therefore I am expected to love Uganda. No, we have missed the point all along. Being a Ugandan is taught. This is something we learn. Teaching doesn't mean you go to school. No. I deal with cattle keepers. And you know the cattle keepers, when they don't like each other, they really hate each other. My area of specialization is Karamoja. There was a time when one ethnic group could not sit in the same room with another ethnic group because they lost their animals on the account of activities of the other, which we call raiding. So they ate each other to death. You see? But that has been taught to their children. That so and so is, if a child is crying in the past, in the 90s, in Karamoja, if they hated another ethnic group to the death, if they wanted to keep a child quiet, they would say, so and so is coming, so keep quiet. Which means we teach hate to our children. We start in our homes. When we go to school, we grow it. And when they begin to live a life of their own, they have already formed their minds that that person is a bad person. Being a Ugandan, to love Uganda has to be taught to people. In Greece, where democracy started, they teach democracy in their kindergartens. They don't take it for a fact that the current democracy we practice originated from a city-state in Greece. They continue to teach democracy in their kindergartens. Uganda is the only country that does not have a systematic, a comprehensive, a long-term agenda around teaching people to love their country. We take it for granted. We have a beautiful climate, we have a sunshine, we have nice people everywhere you go. They say Ugandans are the most lovable. We love everything but ourselves and our country. You are first a Muganda when you meet a person abroad, and then Uganda secondly. And that is a problem because civic education has not come at the center of it. We need to bring back civic education. 3 years I have been doing research, engaging and speaking. We didn't know, I'm happy I was invited here. We didn't know we would even have an opportunity to speak at a forum like this. To say, look here, we have been speaking to ourselves about the importance of civic education. We do research on civic education. We do not understand the importance of civic education in building a national consensus. It starts in the home, in the church, in burial places, in the ministries, everywhere we go. That's the message we need to be passing on to people. Patriotism or nationalism is something that we learn. It cannot be taken for granted. It is something we have for a very, very, very long time, taken for granted. We need to change the way we do things. National consensus needs to be something we have to talk about and say we are a country with differences. Okay. We are a country, we cannot say we all like each other. We can't even speak the same language. But that is not the problem. Our problem is that some people use these differences to take advantage of us. We need to start to teach and send a different message. You see, sometimes we think civic education for national consensus on national building should target the ordinary, the common Ugandan. We are forgetting our leaders. It has to start at the top. Some of the things which our leaders say, they say, you do as I say, but don't do as I do. Say here something different. So they need civic education. It cannot be a one-size-fits-all. We need to understand how to deliver civic education with a strategic message. It cannot be a business as usual, a one-size-fits-all. We need to do a lot of research to understand how to reach out to these people. We need to understand how best to deliver it where. You're not going to deliver civic education to a kindergarten pupil without going through the teacher. We did research in 2019, comprehensive review of civic education in this country, and we realized the majority of, by the way, 40% of Ugandans have not been to school. So if you want to deliver civic education through schools, you're missing the point. The most difficult people are out there. They have not been to school. We realized that of all the channels through which civic education is delivered, FM stations. Now you have people who are behind the microphones in FM stations who have no understanding about what civic education is all about. And they are busy repeating some of the untruths. They have truths they have picked up from some social media channel, and they are passing it on to people. Is it possible for us to start small, start from the obvious, start from which is easy, and then we go to the difficult questions? It is not a journey which we have to finish today. We have to start to speak about it. We will get there. Okay. If we agree that this is something we need to speak about, let's start with where we want to start, which is extremely important for us. Get all the FM stations, talk to them, and tell them this is the message we would like you to deliver. They may deliver it, they may not, but they will not deliver that which they think is what they want to deliver. As when they know that there is a certain message which has to be delivered. The churches, mosques, social gatherings, cultural events. If you ask Sabasaja Kabaka to deliver a certain message, if you ask the Omukama of Bunyoro, the Morimori, and deliver a certain message, that message would reach many people. Okay. It will be well appreciated. We have learned that civic education has to be a continuous process. The timing has to be right. Everybody has to come on board. You cannot leave behind anyone, and you need to package it in very simple messages. We cannot start to talk about national consensus without doing a strategic engagement on how that is going to be engaged with. And the only vehicle that can deliver it for you is civic education. Civic education can cover many things: civil liberties, rights, nationalism, patriotism, democracy, human rights, and many voter education. Depending on what we want to achieve, civic skills, civic consciousness, and civic disposition has in school. We have hidden curriculums. We need to focus on the formal as well as the non-formal. We need things where we don't have much difference, and then we can go for the difficult things once we have a basis around which to engage. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak at this forum.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll come for you, Dr. Frank Mohereza. I am personal and ardent and very religious follower of issues on the continent of Africa. During the elections last year in Ghana, there was a presidential elections peace pact that was signed, and Ndugu Kaheru here wrote something about it. I was responding to him, but I withdrew my response, and my response to him was actually just asking questions, because you notice that that particular presidential peace pact was mooted by two very significant persons. Sheikh Surubutu, the chief imam of Ghana, and the Asante Hene of Ghana. And I wanted to ask Ndugu Kaheru here who our Sheikh Surubutu is, and who the Asante Hene is, because these are two institutions, culture and religion, just like Dr. Frank has alluded to them. When Dr. Maximia is speaking, he also let us know that Her Excellency has engagements with the cultural leaders, because it is very important when we talk about civic education that we need to engage and bring these on board. When Uganda was getting her independence in 1962, the national anthem was sung is not the national anthem that thing today of O Uganda may go. The first national anthem was saying, O Uganda, the people praise thee. And they just discovered that we can't run a country, have a country where we do not have God in our midst. And then so when we brought in God, we noticed that we have so much to do in as far as that is concerned. And so that's why when we involve the church leaders, we involve the religious leaders and cultural leaders, it actually gets easier and better. Let me take the opportunity now to invite Mrs. Sarah Owino to I just want to know whether she's online. Could you do one there? Very important. Now, she's a copywriter and consulting with the Alcan Art. You're very welcome, Sister Owino.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I would like to say that I probably represent two minority groups here. Not minority groups, but this is what they're called, the young women of Uganda, but also I'd like to say still that I represent the millennials who have just gotten out of, say, campus, like myself. And I must agree with what Dr. Frank Muhereza has been saying. The only civic education I have received, information-wise, I must admit, and I'm sad to admit, has been in this place. The most that I have learned is from seeing what people have been doing and doing what they do. I think that is really, really telling, especially with what Dr. Muhereza has been saying. And being a scientist, I would like to still quote one of the laws of physics, which is the second law of thermodynamics. If anything is left to itself, we actually might be at the tail of it. And I do not think that we have really seen as much of the technological advancements that have been going on here in Uganda. However, that does not mean that they are not influencing the way we as Ugandans are doing the different things that we do. So when I received the topic that I was asked to speak about, I thought of it in terms of a question. How can we exploit or influence digital technologies to promote an achievement of understanding and acceptance of our rights and responsibilities as citizens? Because like we have been told over and over again, civic education is more than just a political engagement. It is a socio-economic engagement. And quite a number of people, and the different statistics have been given here. But I'd also like to hint on a little something that has been called digital cooperation. And I'm not going to change the word because we have been taught not to invent the wheels. Digital cooperation, because people are creating their own content now. We have I am a content developer myself. And left to myself, I could easily tank a number of things in the country. And very many people are basing their opinions on other people's opinions, which are being put out on social media. And unless that narrative is shaped, not necessarily controlled, but shaped, we could still be leaving a lot to chance. Institutions are still transmitting norms and values, whether we know it, like it or not. Inadvertently, there are many things that are being taught, one of which has been referenced here, which is the hate-based violence, which is why I'm really appreciative of the campaign, This Is Home. Because when we came earlier, last week I believe it was, I mentioned a fear of raising my children in this country because of the hate-based violence I have seen. And I know that a number of us share the sentiments because there is that level of fear that the people. The leaders and the led, the young and the old, the democracy is made up of the people. Until the people are empowered and engaged, it will be difficult to achieve what we want to achieve. But specifically, I'd just like to point out, for now, the social media globalization that has been happening, and this is what has caused the Western culture to spread a lot faster and further. We have over 2.8 billion users on Facebook, 1 million on Instagram, and 1 billion on Instagram and 2 billion on WhatsApp, which is telling. That is for the world. And for the approximately 47 Ugandans, we have about 3 million, yes, on social media, but over 60% are currently using mobile phones. So that would mean that, like Dr. Frank Muhereza has pointed out, if someone who is in a position of influence posts something on social media and the radio presenter or the TV presenter or whoever it may be, a person in authority, takes it on, that is what is going to be carried forward. So it's important for us, and I'm glad that we have this campaign now, for us to engage the social media platforms that we have to shape the narrative and control the expectations, I would say. Because, and this is just what I'll wrap up with, what I have seen and I have experienced as a young Ugandan is we expect a democracy to be a utopia, but it cannot be. Nothing that is involving human beings can be straight cut, because we as humans are very dynamic and diverse people. So it's also important for us to manage the expectations of the people with regards to what we know as a democracy, political, socio-economic, and whatever it is. Be leading to disintegration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Owino. We really thank you so much for your submission. Those following us have issues in here. There are those that are coming in. Somebody is asking here, how will civic education initiative trickle down to the grassroots where it's needed most in terms of promoting good governance and democratization? Such nice initiatives have always ended up in Kampala boardrooms to benefit the elite of Uganda. The Honorable Rutamaguzi Semakola Paulson Kasana, the Member of Parliament, just says, tell the team that we love the conversation, but when will they start to walk the talk besides speaking English? What they say is at times very different from what they practice. What went wrong that we need to fix right? Now, that's coming in from a Member of Parliament. Working under the we take wind up the conversation here because many of the people here are again supposed to be at Kololo and they need to get there before the president arrives. Can we have you, Akong, if you're ready with us? IT?
Allow me recognize the presence of every dignitary present, the panelists, and whoever is following through online.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to participate in this forum. Uganda, this is home. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning,
I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, we can hear you, Irene.
Participate in this. My name is Irene at the Uteka Peace and Development Initiative, Uganda, Gulo in particular. Yes, my submission is on the roles of youth in promoting civic education.
Sure.
You see, most times, young people waste a lot of energy in powerlessness, boredom, and so many other non-constructive activities. And yet, forgetting that they have got a lot of responsibilities as citizens in the societies that they live in. So I, as a Congo Irene, I am so glad and privileged that I was empowered by Uteka Peace and Development Initiative, and through these empowerments, my mind's changed. I now see life positively as a Ugandan, and the empowerments that they took me through, I am also going ahead still through their support, I'm still going ahead, replicating the same thing to the community that I live in. So right now, the activities that are being done through the support, they will take a foundation, dialogues in the various communities on post-election violence. In doing that, we believe that people's minds would change. They would not view each other as enemies, as people that they should not live with.
Irene?
Yes, yes.
Yes, carry on, we can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I was still talking about dialogues that we always conduct in the communities. Not only in the communities, we also do this through a lot of platforms, even on radio, on the post-election violence circumstances. We also go ahead and do sensitizations in the communities, among the youth, among elders, among women, on their roles in making decisions via votes, while also observing their rights as citizens of Uganda. We do not end at that. We also do community trainings. And in this community trainings on conflict resolution education, we target the leaders in our communities, the LCs, the teachers in schools, the leaderships in schools, because there's this saying that a fish begins getting rotten from the head. Once the head gets rotten, you are sure that the whole body. So we are looking at leaders. And you know that as we train these leaders, at the end of the day, we are securing this later on generation to come. So we believe in doing this, there are lots of positive impacts that would always come in the youth, not only the youth, even the children to come. What do this comes about? Their leadership skills will be sharpened as we do community dialogues, as we do conflict resolution education. Not only that, they become agents of change in their communities, because we believe this civic education is not only political, it is also in our social lives as we live in our community. So as we are doing this, as we are not only targeting only the political leaders, we would also look at these youth leaders. And we know as we are doing this, we are preserving the future generation to come. And when we teach the present people on the importance
Irene. Irene, okay. Well, I think Irene's network has actually broken just right there. But we thank you so much, Irene. You are putting forth your presentation and submission, and we seem to have understood you as a young person based in Gulu and coming to us on Zoom, which I think is indeed very important. When Dr. Frank was speaking to us, he said, many people say you cannot teach patriotism. You cannot teach patriotism. And of course, that has also been a long discussion amongst ourselves. How do you teach people to love their country? But I think it's important that people can actually be taught to do this. We know of so many countries that do what they call national service. And one of the things that they do in national service is actually to teach the people to do that. One author, an essayist, an American man, once said, and I'll quote him, Edward Abbey, he once said, a patriot must be one who is always ready to defend his country against his government. So there are times when you need to defend your country against your own government, and that is what we call patriotism. I now want to invite to this conversation a chief guest, Mrs. Josephine Nkrumah, the chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education in Ghana, who we earlier on said has been with us here. Now, Ms. Josephine Nkrumah is a Ghanaian lawyer who currently serves as the chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education. She was appointed in 2015 by John Dramani Mahama, and later promoted to the chairpersonship of the same commission by John Mahama. We'll now take the opportunity to invite her as a guest of honor to speak to us And we now come to you on Zoom in Ghana, Mrs. Josephine Nkrumah. You're welcome.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you, Mrs. Josephine.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Very well.
Good morning from
So,
Kampala.
I'd like to adopt exist.
Okay.
Sorry?
Good morning from Kampala. Go ahead and speak to us. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And permit me to adopt the existing protocols and just say good morning to our distinguished panelists. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I'd like to express my gratitude to the NICE Uganda for the honor and opportunity to speak to this eminent audience. I bring you warm felicitations from the National Commission for Civic Education in Ghana, NCCE being our acronym. We are an independent constitutional body mandated to educate the citizens of Ghana on their civic rights and responsibilities to sustain democracy and national development per the tenets of our 1992 Constitution. NCC has been in existence for 28 years, and it is pertinent to note that under the Ghanaian Constitution, the creating article of the Commission is an entrenched one, and therefore any attempt to alter or amend the existence of the Commission is one that can only be achieved by a national referendum. Equally important for us is the fact that our Commission is independent and as stipulated by Article 234, which states that except as otherwise provided in this Constitution or in any law which is not inconsistent with the Constitution, the Commission shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority in the performance of its functions. Indeed, so sacrosanct did our lawmakers consider civic education that they ensured that it was insulated from partisanship or from government intrusions to the benefit of any particular political party. Indeed, that has been the beauty of civic education in Ghana, albeit it has also come with its own challenges. Whilst drawing strength from our independence, this same strength sometimes weakens our hands as no ministry speaks or advocates on our behalf for critical funding. I'll come again to that subject briefly in my concluding remarks, but I listened, I read the topic for today's discussion, and I said to myself, how really do we express a citizen-centered approach to nation building through the vehicle of civic education? For me personally, and in my work over the last few years, I hold a firm conviction that every country needs an educated and engaged citizenry. A citizenry that reflects the sovereign will of its people to drive development, to drive peace, prosperity, equality, justice, rule of law, virtues of any developed nation. It is a prerequisite for the citizenry to be actively engaged and motivated towards nation building, and governments will only be as responsive as civic-minded citizens demand from them. Essentially, there must be a crucial connection between an active citizenry and a responsive government where hearts and minds beat as one in determining the trajectory of national growth and development. The spirit of citizenship lies, for me, in three cardinal pillars for civic education. The first is civic knowledge, where citizens understand the workings of the governance system and equally understand their political as well as civic rights and responsibilities. The second cardinal pillar is the civic skills, where the citizen has the ability to analyze, evaluate, take and defend positions of public issues, on public issues and of public interest, and use the civic knowledge acquired to participate in the civic and political process and discourse. Civic disposition, being the cardinal pillar, are traits necessary for any democracy, and they must include patriotism, tolerance, critical mindedness, willingness to accommodate divergent views, to negotiate, compromise, and an ability for peace building. These cardinal pillars must be imbibed in the citizenry through education to ensure active citizenship underpinned by national cohesion. Without this cohesion, civic education largely would be ineffective. It is therefore gratifying to note that the NICE Uganda is underscoring the importance of unity in its Uganda, This Is Home campaign. I think one can never really appreciate the essence of peace and unity if you have not passed through a certain level of division that has caused great turmoil and retrogression. Whilst Uganda has had its fair share of internal struggles driven by various perceptions of differences, be it tribal, political, or religious, I believe that this has catapulted Uganda into a renewed sense of urgency towards nation building. For Uganda, this is a new dawn, and we must be intentional and deliberate about driving sustained civic education to reignite the flames of patriotism, peace, unity, and accountability. Indeed, some of these have a commonality with the 4 values of the NICE Uganda campaign. This really is a time for serious business. It is about accountability at all levels. Leaders must be accountable, whether you're political, religious, institutional, both in the private and the public sector. Accountability from parents, teachers, workers, employees or self-employed, traders, artists, artisans, sportsmen and women. We as Ugandans must be accountable for our stewardship as citizens who have a duty not only to ourselves but equally to our forebears and posterity. It is accountability to our nation, Uganda, and its vast natural resources. It is accountability to Africa as a cohesive whole, where our national pursuits and actions have a bearing on the larger African continent and its impact globally. This sense of accountability would lead to eschewing vices of society by the citizenry that does not stimulate national growth, patriotism, national cohesion, and positive attitudinal behavior. Our greatest asset as a nation is our mindset. Our greatest tool in the collective pursuit of any worthy national goal or development, and also our mindset is a weapon in the face of any adversity. Therefore, effective civic education must engender this civic mindset for accelerated development. When we have a robust and sustained civic education program, we certainly as Ugandans will help reap the dividend by inspired citizenship. Indeed, let us also celebrate the diversity of Uganda, for it is indeed the drawstring of our uniqueness, our oneness, our Ubuntu. Finally, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I return to the subject matter of funding. Indeed, civic education is the oil that turns the wheel of national development and security. Civic education is an expensive venture. This is the reality. But like oil drilling is a capital-intensive venture, which also yields real and high return on investment, so is civic education. So I urge you to be innovative and dynamic, to be responsive to the needs and aspirations of Ugandans. Invest in civic education to reap the real dividend of national cohesion, sustainable democracy, development, peace and security, and economic empowerment. Please accept that the expectations from the citizenry would be almost burdensome. Please accept also, embrace these expectations, leverage on institutional collaboration, and remember all Ugandans are your strongest allies and partners. After all, it is about Ugandans. Therefore, the women, the elderly, the youth, the young children who are all change agents, traditional authorities, faith-based organizations, civil society organizations, artisanal groupings should all be embraced and targeted in this multifaceted program. For you to reach them, therefore, civic education must be decentralized and it must cascade to all facets of society and to all actors in the government space. On behalf of the National Commission for Civic Education, we pledge our continued support to the NICE Uganda by sharing not only the best practices, but also our mistakes and our weaknesses in order to build a strong NICE Uganda. I believe with the firmest of convictions that the key to Africa's rising is civic education. And I look forward to seeing this accelerated where African nations embrace civic education as the key to realizing our fullest potential. As Uganda charts this path of inspired citizenship through civic education as a major tool, on behalf of the National Commission for Civic Education, I pray that success crowns all your endeavors for the peace and prosperity of a greater Uganda. I salute you and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Josephine, just right there for those very good remarks. We really appreciate and thank you so much. I've endeavored to talk to young persons in Uganda and telling them that yes, we can differ politically, we can differ religiously, we can differ on several things, but we cannot differ on Uganda. Not all Ghanaians are subscribed to the NPP, the ruling party, and not all of them belong to the NDC of John Dramani Mahama, but all of them remember that they are Ghanaians. And so when issues come, and it is Ghana, then Ghana has to come first. It's okay to have these diversities, but also remember that we are Ugandans. Earlier on, I saw some hands on Zoom here, and we just want to appreciate all those who are following us, the participants on Zoom. It's indeed very important. From Josephine's submission there, she made something very important and critical here of the entrenchment article that establishes their national commission for civic education. Now that is indeed very, very important that it's actually permanent in there. Whether it's Josephine today or another person some other day, they will still come and find this. When the Commissioner Bakarikwira here was speaking to us, he talked about the parish model that's going to take close to 260 billion Uganda shillings. And we think that all that money, as long as people are not civically educated, we might have so much resource doing nothing and yielding nothing. I am just happy that we're managing our time, and we've actually brought this to some very good conclusion here to thank everybody. But we request that Ndugu Bakarikwira here says something before I invite Her Excellency Rosa Malango, who shall also give us the closing remarks as we again run out of here to Kololo for Heroes Day today. Ndugu JJ.
Thank you very much, moderator. I want to thank all the participants in this very important dialogue in here and out there. I want to thank the participant from Ghana. Thank you very much for your very, very passionate words and of encouragement. And as a country, Uganda, this is the direction where we are going. We have got many call center is there. And also as a country, we have established many programs which are tailored towards helping up political education and civic education. One of them is the patriotic clubs within schools, which are now moving from the secondary schools, which were planning to cascade up the lowest level. But nonetheless, it is indeed true that now Parliament must take the lead.
You also need to take Frank's advice. 40% of these are not in schools. You need to know that.
That's why I'm talking about that now Parliament, now we must take this opportunity to establish the enabling law as directed by the Article 17 of our Constitution, which is going to establish the national service by law so that it can now cascade down. It can go outside there to accommodate all those youth and those elder people outside the school system, outside the governance system. Okay. And indeed, I'm happy to inform that the process of establishing the national service program in Uganda is underway. So I hope that as we start in this new system of governance, of establishing and developing the parish model as I talked about, this one will be able to take shape. And indeed, all this is will be galvanized by everybody's action. From our conversation here, at least we know that now civic education is not a matter of government agencies alone, but it's a matter of the whole of society approach, where everybody in every category must play a role. As well put, the church, the traditional institutions, the women agenda, the youth agenda, they must play a role. But somebody should shoot the opening bar that now this is where to go. As means of information and national guidance, ICT and national guidance, we have got a lot of window through the media. Everywhere now we are having radios and TVs. And good enough as a corporate responsibility, all these media houses are giving airtime to the public, to the all actors, to go and push the message outside there. So I urge NICE and other actors, Dr. Frank, whom I've worked very well with our ministry and other actors outside there, to go and use this space. And in addition to that one, as the ministry, we have started to start a program of sensitizing all those actors from within government, and we are hoping to go outside there also from outside government, the government communicators. We took some of them to the National Research Institute, where we have tried to conscientize them along the national ideology, and we hope that we shall cascade down to the districts and also involve all actors so that now we can talk the same language and tow the same path of national development and using civic education as one of the windows towards achieving our national objective. And I want to thank the convener, Mama Malongo. Please, thank you very much. As the saying goes, please don't stop there, but continue in that direction wherever you are. Uganda is our home. Thank you so much, please.
Thank you very much, Ndugu JJ, Commissioner JJ Bakarikwira from the Ministry of ICT in charge of national guidance. Thank you so much for that remark. Just before Your Excellency comes in, Ndugu Major General Masiko is online. Just 1 minute, if we can hear from you, General Masiko, the National Political Commissar. Please come in very shortly before Her Excellency makes the conclusive remarks here.
Thank you, everyone. I hope I'm being heard.
Yes, you are.
Am I clear?
Yes, you are.
I want to congratulate the conveners of this important discussion. Indeed, I am excited that not only are we making efforts at the national level, but from the global perspective, UN also recognizes that the population, the citizens ought to be empowered in a dual form. While they enjoy their freedom, they should know their rights. But the most important aspect is for them to know that the country is on their shoulders. They need to be empowered to value playing their roles and responsibilities, to be proud of all now that is required is translating the constitutional intention into an enabling legislation, but also having this program come into the list of priorities, because as Mama Nkrumah did indicate, it's a costly venture, but it's an imperative. We have no alternative but to reach out to the citizens, to empower them, first of all, to know that there are those things citizens must embrace as citizens, as nation builders, and have it ingrained in their value system. So I want to congratulate the organizers. I'm sorry I didn't come in earlier because of other obligations, but I think this is the beginning, and would like you to support the national efforts. Then the President's Office through the National Secretary for Patriotic Clubs, and also moving ahead as we move towards embracing the National Youth Service. Congratulations, the organizers, and we look forward to the continued dialogue in this direction. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you so much, General Masiko. We really thank you so much. You've been very audible, very clear, and we thank you that your presentation has come through to us. Just before we end, because our time has run out, and we need to stop at this in the next few minutes. Questions coming in here, I'll just read to them, carry them with you, and find platforms that will engage and then see how to respond. Somebody here says, how does a Nice Uganda initiative space intended to resolve the weakening relations between CSOs and the government of Uganda, the relationship between CSOs and the government of Uganda? How does this intend to bring that, to resolve that? Nice Uganda should also involve and engage national and regional best CSO networks or forums to reach out to the communities in the country if it will be effective. Good morning to all of you. I think after this dialogue, NICE should be able to share with us the details of the strategies and the stakeholders that they plan to work with to make this effective. We can also critique and share our ideas after we have had the details. So some cannot critique until they get the details. And somebody here says, thank you so much, Mrs. Nkrumah. Leadership at all levels, as well as mobilizing communities through raising their consciousness, rights and obligations in the transformation agenda, Ministry of Local Government, because I think these are actually the implementers of the parish development model that Ndugu Bakari Kwira talked about here. Let me welcome you, Your Excellency Rosa Malango, to give us your closing remarks, because our time is running out and we need to get ready for Kololo. Welcome.
Thank you very much, moderator, and thank you so much to the participants. Three messages from me. The first one is to say the sense of just being amazed and listening to what I've heard today. In 2016, when I asked which were the top risks for Uganda's stability development, 80% of the persons that I spoke to told me the lack of civic education. And then when I asked them, so how can we do it? They told me, don't touch it. Don't say civic education. You can't do civic education in Uganda.
No-go area.
You're going to be blacklisted. It's no-go area. So I was astonished that a country so rich in diversity with such a great sense of civil service, actually, even at an international level, didn't want to touch what is the definition of your soul. This is about the soul of this nation. So it's not optional. You need to find a way to define your soul, and your soul will evolve depending on what is happening in the global and regional spheres. So with that commitment, I endured. And I want to really use this opportunity to reiterate something that the chairman and I mentioned at the beginning. This is the beginning of the journey. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And everybody needs to stop looking at who else should be doing something, because everyone has to do something. This is an individual responsibility with collective impact. This is what are you teaching your children? What does it mean to be Ugandan? You know, when we see you outside and inside, what do you stand for? What is a no-go area? What is your brand as an individual, as a community, and as a nation? So that cannot be the responsibility of one segment. That is everyone's responsibility. Which brings me to the third point. Please do not see Nice Uganda as this private sector entity that's supposed to be producing something. It is a safe space for everyone to contribute. During the past 2 years from the launch, we identified more than 16 government institutions that are working on civic education without knowing it. We identified more than 50 initiatives on civic education by civil society. They didn't know each other. By the time we started speaking to the private sector, we stopped writing. So there's so much going on, but there's no impact because there's no coherence and there's no coordination. Nice Uganda is the coordination space. It is done by Ugandans for Ugandans. So please, you have a contribution, bring it on, and let's make it happen. I believe that now that the campaign has been launched, a couple of things are going to be critical. One is to have regional dialogues. We have discussed it. We need to take it out to the regions. And that is where the radios, the cultural leaders, the influencers have a very important role to play. Because the concerns that I heard in Karamoja are not the ones I heard in West Nile, are not the ones I heard in Port Poto, they're not the ones I heard in Isinjiro. Each region has a different issue. So you will have to create that space to find out what are the issues of the region and then what is common to the entire nation. You also need to embrace your diversity. And I've said this in a lot of the private forums, and I'm going to say it today publicly. It should be absolutely fine to say, I'm an Acholi Ugandan, I'm a Buganda Ugandan, I'm a Bunyoro Ugandan. That's just the contribution to Ugandanness. It should not take away, it should actually enhance and enrich. And because this is inclusive, it means that you have to work with your security forces, you have to work with your private sector, you have to work with academia. Be able to learn from their lessons and figure out how to have a permanent space that is owned and supported by Ugandans to define what it means to be a Ugandan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We really want to appreciate you and thanking everybody Finally, from me to Ndugu JJ Bakalikwira, because I know that you sit at the fulcrum of communication in this country. We all agree that we have so many radio stations in the country, so many TV stations in the country, and I think you need to up the game in giving these radio stations and TV stations as influencers the right information to speak to the people, because we're talking about very pertinent and critical issues here that should be said rightly in the best way and in the interest of Uganda. We need to promote Uganda more than tribal extractions or political extractions or anything. We should be Uganda. We should promote Uganda. And of course, like we say, it is, this is home. It is home, indeed, and we need to get there. So I very much want to thank all of you. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for hosting us here and for allowing this to be a very good stage for us to talk about these very pertinent issues and very pertinent things. Thank you so much, our guest of honor, Mrs. Josephine Nkrumah from Ghana. You've endured and been there for all these hours, and we thank you so much that even when you came in to speak, your presentation came through very clearly, and we heard you audibly, and we really understood what you said. And everybody who has been participating, those who have been on Zoom, and everybody here, and those watching us on a different TV platforms, on UBC TV, on NBS, and the other platforms where you've been. I also want to take the opportunity to thank you for having allowed me to moderate and to be here today. My name is Jagenda Semakola Zikusoka, wishing you all the best and wishing you a very happy Heroes Day today as we get to Kololo, for God and my country, as we all now embrace Uganda as home. Stay blessed and God bless all of you. Good morning and bye-bye.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by Authentically Symbolic and Insightful.
We should work so hard to evacuate this power.
Behind the Headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odong Top, was brought to you by...
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Century Points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go. MTN.
Electronic Physical Receipting and Invoicing System, IFRIS. All VAT taxpayers are required to be registered for IFRIS and to issue e-invoices.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Century Points when you deposit, send, and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go. MTN.
What does it mean to be closer together? It's taking the last bus home for a surprise visit. Closer together is strangers finding a connection. It's bringing home something much more than a box. It's the warmth of home, or the beginning of something new. There's magic in sharing the things that we learn, because it's those things that bring us close together.
Welcome to Coffee Production Tips, brought to you by Uganda Coffee Development Authority. Uganda Coffee Development Authority is the government agency mandated to promote and oversee the coffee industry as a whole by developing research, facilitating coffee production and productivity by training farmers on good agricultural practices, controlling the quality and improving the marketing of coffee, for the benefit of stakeholders. In this series, a trained farmer, Mr. Wally Christopher, gives tips and demonstrates digging the hole, planting coffee seedlings, mulching, training coffee seedlings, and stamping coffee.
People have not been mulching their coffee, and we want to start. We are going to reintroduce mulching of coffee because that is a climate smart technology. Whenever it rains, the water will do what? Will resist the water because the soil is this. So that you maintain the soil temperature, you maintain the soil moisture. So I leave this space. Why? The termites, because whenever you put a dry element on the ground, our friends the termite will come to break it down, to start the decomposition process. As they do, they will attack your what? Coffee. So you leave this space so that the termites and other insects don't tamper with the what? And that rain which comes will just go in, also here, but it will be sustained so that the rate of evaporation is checked. We put ash around. This ash is very good. First, it irritates the insects which could have attacked the what? Our coffee. If you spot any disease somewhere, you can just peel off or remove that leaf completely, and you burn it somewhere. Yeah, before running straight to the what? To the drugs, to the agrochemicals. So that's my advice. Yeah, after planting, you go to your small office and you make a record of what you have done and maybe the expenses which have been incurred on that garden. If it is pure stand or gap filling, you put the costs and the activities so that you don't mind writing the very professional books. You just write planting, digging holes, etc. My ranch, that is it. It will be for the professionals to come, the agriculture officers, the what, to analyze for you these records.
Farmers are encouraged to adopt good agricultural practices to get high yields, good prices, and better income from coffee. These tips are brought to you by Uganda Coffee Development Authority.